It started with a lens, cold, glossy, and lifeless. But the moment I spotted it staring over our backyard fence, straight into my children's pool area, it felt more like an eye. Watching. Judging. Violating. We had just finished renovating the backyard that spring. My two kids, Ava, 6, and Jordan, 8, had begged for a pool for 2 years. My wife Olivia and I finally gave in, scraping together savings to install a modest but beautiful above-ground pool surrounded by synthetic turf, some loungers, and pastel umbrellas. For the first time since lockdowns and job transitions, we felt like we could exhale. It was our sanctuary. And then Karen happened. Her name was actually Karen Whitmore, Vice President of the Oakwood Hills Homeowners Association, self-proclaimed guardian of community standards, and a widow with too much time and far too little empathy. Karen lived 2 doors down, on the corner lot with the manicured lawn she measured with a ruler. Her house always smelled like bleach and resentment. She had already left snide comments on our front porch planters being too bohemian, filed a noise complaint when the kids had a birthday party at 3 p.m. on a Sunday, and once sent a letter warning that our American flag was not proportionally aligned with the front-facing elevation, whatever that meant. But this time, she crossed the line. It was a Tuesday morning when I noticed it. A freshly installed pole on the edge of her second-story balcony. At the top, a high-end motion-detecting camera, the kind with zoom, tilt, infrared, and storage. My stomach dropped as I followed the angle, dead center view of our backyard, our pool, our kids' private sanctuary. I felt the burn of rage start to rise. I walked next door, calmly at first. Rang her doorbell. Karen opened with her ever-present fake smile. "Good morning, Mr. Lawson. Need something?" I pointed at the camera. "That device is pointed straight into my backyard, into my kids' pool area. You need to reposition or remove it." Karen's smile didn't flinch. "It's within my rights to monitor my property line. We've had an increase in trespassers. The HOA supports added vigilance." "Don't insult my intelligence. That camera's view goes 20 feet into my yard. It's illegal surveillance." "Well," she clicked her tongue, "feel free to bring it up at the next HOA meeting. I'll be happy to explain the importance of neighborhood security." That's when I realized she installed it intentionally. Not for security, not even for perversion. It was control, power, punishment. Because we dared to build joy in her orbit. I didn't wait for the next meeting. That night, I documented everything. I pulled my ladder and checked the angle, recorded video showing the lens tilting and zooming toward my children playing. I ran a laser alignment to prove it crossed the property line. I contacted a lawyer, and I called someone else too, my old college roommate, now an investigative reporter for Channel 7. Within 48 hours, I had legal backup and a news crew ready to roll. But that wasn't all.
I filed a police report. Under our state's privacy laws, using Zoom-capable surveillance pointed at a neighbor's yard, especially one where minors are often undressed, is a serious crime. The officer who arrived reviewed my footage and nodded grimly. "You're right to report this," he said. "This isn't just creepy, it may be a felony depending on what she's recorded." Karen watched the officer knock on her door from behind lace curtains. Her face paled when she saw the badge, and again when she saw the news van pull up an hour later. The story aired that same night. HOA vice president accused of filming neighbor's children, claims security motive. They used her name, her address blurred but still visible to locals. My footage ran with pixelated images of the backyard and overlays proving the illegal angles. The story exploded. Reddit picked it up, then TikTok, And by Friday, Karen Whitmore was the #1 trending name on Twitter in our state. I got emails from strangers. Other neighbors came forward. Turns out Karen had a history, secretly snapping photos of teens at the community pool for policy enforcement, demanding access to doorbell footage from young families, even suggesting the HOA should mandate interior inspections for standard violations. It was a pattern, a sickness. The backlash was swift. Anonymous neighbors hung signs outside her house. "We're not your prisoners." Teens filmed TikToks mocking her with binoculars and aluminum hats. Someone even built a parody HOA website with her face superimposed on Big Brother, captioned, "She's watching." But it wasn't all fun and memes. The police investigation went deeper. Subpoenas, device searches. Karen had deleted footage, but not all of it. Forensic tech recovered enough to prove she had been storing clips of my daughter Ava splashing around in a swimsuit, zoomed in and cataloged. That was the moment Olivia broke down. Our sanctuary, our safe space turned into a surveillance trap. The case escalated. Karen was arrested, charged with invasion of privacy, unauthorized surveillance of minors, and electronic trespassing. Her bail was set at $100,000. The HOA suspended her immediately, but the stain didn't stop there. National media picked it up. I was interviewed by CNN, Good Morning America, even BBC World. Every show asked the same question: why would a woman do something like this? I never said much, just stared into the camera and said, she thought she was the law. She forgot we have real ones. But I wasn't done. The HOA tried to distance itself, claimed Karen acted alone. That's when I dropped my final card. Remember those meetings, the ones I skipped? Turns out Karen had been pushing a neighborhood surveillance initiative for months, arguing for cameras on every corner paid for by residents. She even suggested using facial recognition. I acquired the minutes, recorded calls, and emails from a whistleblower board member. I released them to the press, to the community, to the Attorney General's office. And suddenly, Karen wasn't the only one sweating. The fallout wasn't a landslide. It was an avalanche. Karen's arrest triggered a domino effect. Once her digital devices were confiscated and examined, police uncovered far more than our family's private footage. They discovered folders organized by address, clips, logs, timelines. She had been watching several families, children, teenagers, elderly couples, all under the guise of HOA safety. 2 other families had previously complained, but were ignored or subtly threatened by Karen with fines and citations. One of them, Amira Hussein, a single mother of 3, said Karen warned her that her presence in this neighborhood was already enough of a risk, and that constant monitoring was a matter of community protection. That was her style. Authoritarian policing wrapped in plastic smiles and HOA bureaucracy. I met Amira for the first time at the emergency HOA meeting called a week after Karen's arrest. It was held at the Oakwood Community Center, now packed with furious residents and several off-duty cops hired to prevent chaos. The board sat on the stage, looking like a row of tired librarians, while community members took turns at the mic. Amira spoke, and silence fell. Her voice was calm, steady. Karen made me feel like an intruder in my own home. She told my daughter, who wears a hijab, that she looked too foreign for our local school. And now we find out she was recording our backyard too? Gasps, shouts. Someone from the back yelled, "Disband the board!" When it was my turn to speak, I walked to the mic with a manila folder under my arm. "Before I begin," I said. Then I opened the folder and pulled out a printed email. It was from Karen, dated 5 months earlier. A message to the board. I read aloud. There is a growing need to visually supervise families that may introduce instability. Certain residents lack traditional American values and require more thorough observation. Cameras are no longer optional. They are our only line of defense. The room went dead silent. I closed the folder. That's the voice you let represent our community. What followed was chaos, but productive chaos. People demanded resignations. Petitions flew. Some board members quit on the spot. A special vote was announced to re-elect the entire HOA leadership. I was urged, by more people than I could count, to run for president. I didn't want power. I wanted accountability. And revenge? I wanted it written into stone. So I did something bigger than taking over the HOA. I worked with a local state senator who had seen the news coverage. Together, we began drafting legislation, the Residential Digital Privacy Act, a bill that would outlaw residential surveillance across property lines, with mandatory registration for HOA-operated cameras and severe penalties for violating digital privacy of minors.
When the bill passed its first round of approvals, we celebrated, quietly, respectfully. The victory didn't undo the violation, but it transformed it into power. Karen's trial began 3 months later. The courtroom was packed. She had traded her pastel cardigans for a beige prison jumper. She refused to look at me. Her attorney argued she was trying to create a safe community, but the prosecution eviscerated that defense. "You weren't creating safety," the DA said in closing arguments. "You were feeding a hunger for control, and you were preying on children to do it." Karen was convicted on all counts. The judge handed her a 5-year sentence, suspended after 2, plus mandatory registration as a digital privacy offender, a fine of $150,000, and a permanent ban from serving in any HOA or civic leadership position ever again. But the real hit wasn't the prison time. It was the documentary. My college roommate, the investigative reporter, had turned the entire ordeal into a special called Behind the Gate, How HOAs Became Surveillance States. It aired nationally. Karen's face was on the poster. Her voice, smug and entitled, played under narration exposing how neighborhood power can become domestic tyranny. The final scene? A slow drone shot panning away from Oakwood Hills, over our backyard, past the now empty camera pole on Karen's abandoned home. But that wasn't even the end. TikTokers started doing skits pretending to be HOA Karens. The hashtag KarenCam trended with over 22 million views. Musicians sampled her voice from HOA meetings into remixes. One YouTuber got 10 million views mocking her citations like courtroom monologues. "Your swing set is 6 inches off center. Your hydrangeas are too politically pink. Your pool is violating my sense of control." But none of that compared to the final blow. A buyer purchased Karen's house at auction. Who? Me. I bought it. Not to live in, to demolish it. We invited the whole neighborhood, barbecue, music, popcorn. My kids wore helmets and held tiny mallets. One by one, we all took a symbolic swing before the excavator finished the job. Karen's house fell in less than 4 hours. In its place, we built a new community playground. We called it Whitmore Field. A little dig, a big message. And right on the gates, engraved in bronze, "Let no one watch what they do not own." That summer, Eva learned how to dive. Jordan learned to swim the full length of the new pool we built, bigger, better, with privacy screens taller than ever. Olivia smiled more. I breathed again. Because peace isn't the absence of HOA Karens. It's the triumph of justice over fear, and the knowledge that even in the age of cameras and control, truth still finds a lens of its own.